Ladies and gentlemen, the big news coming out of the CFL this week is that, yes, there is indeed going to be a 2021 season. The season will kick off August the 5th. It will see a rematch of the 2019 Grey Cup between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. This is very exciting. The season will be, albeit a little shortened, and it will culminate with the Grey Cup in Hamilton in mid-December. Yes, it's wonderful in Hamilton that time of year. But we're Canadian. We can handle this. I'm very excited that the CFL is back. Of course, there were some dark times. Of course, the cancellation of last season, coupled with the fact that the CFL had gone to the government multiple times, the federal government multiple times asking for taxpayer money, to which they were rejected. However, the good news is the CFL will go forward this year. So if you had told me back in March even that there was going to be a season this year, I'm not sure I would have believed you. But we see cases going down. We see the amount of vaccines going up. Things are looking positive. We are slowly but surely getting back into some semblance of normalcy. So it's great. So question number one would have been, hey, do you think there's going to be a season? Looks like that's been answered. And the answer is yes. I'll finally get to wear my conflicted jersey again, and I'm excited. Let me ask you the second question. Will you go? Assuming you are in the opportunity of going to a game at a Canadian stadium, what is your level of comfortability with going? There's really no wrong answer. I believe that people have the right to their opinion, and I'd be interested in hearing yours. Now, I think each market is going to be approaching how they handle fans differently. And I'm interested in a couple of different things. I seem to have more questions than I have answers. At least I don't have those answers yet, but I suspect I will get them soon. So, for example, I'm a season ticket holder for the Ottawa Red Blacks. I go in a group of 5. Is the expectation that the 5 of us sit together and we're socially distanced from other people? Or is it going to be one of us space, one of us space, one of us space, just spacing it out from that perspective? I wouldn't expect fans at a football game to have to be able to prove that they've been vaccinated, but I am interested, are people going to be expected to wear masks? So there's a couple of different things floating around. I think gone are the days of all the fans, merging on the field after the game. I suspect that that's gone, and I think there's going to be a lot of different things that we're used to seeing at football games that initially we're not going to see at some of these CFL games. But I am interested in what sort of precautions are being put in place. But I am interested to know, what are people's levels of comfortability with in terms of going to a game? Do you feel comfortable going to a game? Does it depend on the stadium? Does it depend on what their restrictions are? Or are you part of the group that's like, willy-nilly, I don't really care? And again, I'm not here to judge. I'm just opening up a conversation. Now, the bigger question that I have is that, unfortunately, of course, there was no 2020 season. The CFL and all of its people had the entire time off. And I'm just wondering, what sort of money-making ideas, some revenue-generating ideas have they come up with? It's very unfortunate that we learned that the CFL was not doing great from a monetary standpoint. I understand that from a financial standpoint, things weren't great. I never thought they were spectacular. I understand if you're comparing the NFL and the CFL, it's an unfair comparison. You got 32 teams going up against 9. It's the ratings, everything. There's just so much in play where it's just not a fair comparison. But to know that there were several times that the CFL went to the federal government asking for taxpayer money alone tells you that the CFL could use a bit of a spike. So I'm wondering, what are they going to do? Because there seems to me that there are 2 blaring opportunities that are right in front of us. The first one being a video game. And I know I keep coming back to this, and I'll keep coming back to it until I see a viable video game. It blows my mind that there isn't one. And I understand they weren't able to do a deal with EA Sports, but there's other video game manufacturers out there. And the reason I harp on this subject is over the last year, especially over the last 6 months, one of the things I keep hearing about is PS5, Xbox Series X. We clearly know that people are playing video games and they have an appetite for it. So why not provide them with a game that showcases your league? EA Sports has an office in Vancouver where they have FIFA. That's where FIFA's head office is. They don't even call it FIFA in that office. They call it the world's game because, quite frankly, people around the world are playing that game. They make more money off of that video game than I'm quite sure the CFL generates in a year. Fact check that. There is money to be made in video games. The second thing is sports betting. Now, I know sports betting might be kind of like, this negative thing for some people, but at the same token, you're looking at a lot of companies that have made major partnerships with major sports organizations. It's a thing. I think the CFL is an exciting product. And they have a nice fantasy football podcast. Devote more time to talking about fantasy football in the CFL. TSN, which is obviously the one of the major sponsors and the major network for the CFL, should have a show dedicated to fantasy football and talking about it. There has to be different ways that the CFL is looking at getting people more interested in their product. Now, listen, if it's a situation of, hey, we were able to keep the lights on, let's get people back in the building, that's a wonderful thing, and that to me is table stakes. To me, the next level is making sure you get yourself in a position that you weren't in last year, where you're going to the government asking for money. And the way that you do that is you develop a strong sense of interest and strong loyalty in your product. CFL employs a lot of people from coast to coast. It's time for those people to step up and say, here are the different things that we can do to get people interested in the CFL. Because with all due respect, the last idea that I heard they came out with was putting people's names on the Grey Cup. Hey, Keith, as a fan, you can spend X amount of hundreds of dollars to get your name put on the Grey Cup. No thanks. But if you're telling me that I can go and buy a couple of licenses, a couple of copies of a video game and distribute it to like friends and nephews and nieces and get them interested in it, I'm in. So I'm interested to hear, what does the CFL have in store for us? I'm hoping it's something. If you are perfectly prepared to come and ask for taxpayer money, be perfectly prepared to show what you can do to grow your business. I'm rooting for you, and I'm excited that you're back. My name is Keith. Thank you so much for checking this out, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.